Hey, good morning, guys. So today I want to do some succulent maintenance, starting with this container. So I put this together in the winter. I had these string of pearls growing under one of my topiaries last year. So they started out as these little plugs in early spring, and 7 months later they were trailing beautifully. So what I ended up doing was cutting chunks out of these string of pearls, and then I just side planted them into this hanging basket, and I had a little spot reserved in the center. And these are the geraniums that I grew from seeds. So I just popped those in there. And I think the idea is nice if the pearls looked better. So what I want to do today, you can see if you look closer at the pearls, like at the surface level, you can see all the new growth starting. Let me just try and get this thing to focus. So all the new little pearls and strands are starting to come out. But I think these older ones I'm going to chop. But I'm first going to take some of the strands and just circle them around the top, just to fill in gaps, like for example this gap. And then all these bits I'm just going to chop off and then lay them into a window box. I want to get something like this, but with the string of pearls. Of course, once they've got a bit of length, I want to hang them onto my fence. I think that'll be so beautiful. I'm going to fill this window box with some well-draining soil. I've got some succulent cactus potting mix. That will be the majority of what goes in the box. And then I'm just going to mix in some orchid bark, some pumice, and some poultry grit. Also, if you live near Kroger, you might want to go and check out the plant section in the fall, because they mark these bags down from, I think, almost $7 to $1.30. And now I'm just going to take the individual strands to fill in gaps. I'm just going to make sure that there's soil contact with the stem of the string of pearls. And then I'm just going to squish those in, tuck them in. And then I do have these little pins that I can secure them in place just until they root in. It's not necessary, but I am going to do it just to make sure. Okay, this one I'm going to just tuck in. This one I'm going to snip off and lay to the side. Okay, so that looks nice and full. I think I'm going to put one right back here as well. So I'm just going to keep going around and filling in gaps. Just shift this out the road. Okay, so the surfaces are nice and full, and now I'm going to go ahead and trim off these remaining strands. And I'm just going to tuck the ends back in, because I think by the end of the season these will start trailing naturally and it's going to end up looking very pretty. I'm just going to put these aside. Make sure they're all tucked in. This big lump I'm just going to pop back in. Okay, there we go. Oh, there's another piece I missed. Hold on. Let me just cut these off. Move this out the way. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's the 4th of June today. And I'm just going to go and hang this back outside under the tree. And then I will keep you posted on how it grows through the summer. And then once they root, I'll just pull these little pins out. They've got these little tabs on the end, so it makes it quite easy to insert and remove. So this top layer is just succulent soil, and then about 1/2 inch below I've got quite a gritty mix. I just want to make sure it's well draining because this is quite a deep reservoir, and I just want to make sure the water drains out pretty quickly. And I'm going to lay them on the soil and just make sure that the stem is touching the soil. I am going to peg the end bit into the soil and just cover that over a bit. Now, because string of pearls is actually a ground cover, this is a good way to get it started. You can see, if you look down along the strand, you can see all the little roots like here. So those little roots will find their way into the soil as long as you just place them correctly. So instead of using the pegs, I'm rather going to just remove some pearls off the ends. And then just use the back of my kebab skewer, lay it on the stem, and then just push it in deep. And then just fan the pearls out.
Watching me steady, I know, wondering why I'm so hollow. You're showing me all of your best, while
Okay, so this is what it ended up looking like. I did pack them in pretty tight, and then I have tried to gently squish them all down to make soil contact. Now there are ones at the top that are not anywhere near the soil, but they will eventually either send roots down, and if they shrivel up and dry up, I'll clip them off. Now I'm not going to water these right away. I'm going to leave them dry for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how hot it gets outside. But I do want to stress them enough that they start sending out roots and searching for water. So I'm going to put these in a shady spot outside. So this is where I've placed it. I've got it between my table and chair, and this will get a limited amount of morning sun and then shade for the rest of the day. And then once it starts rooting in, I will move it into a spot that gets a bit more morning sun, afternoon shade. So I planted the little whipcord into this pot, and what I'm going to do is the succulents that I've overwintered, I want to plant them in this pot the same as I did last year. And the way I do that is I've left quite a big gap, so it's very hard to see on camera, but this is the soil surface and it kind of goes down quite a bit. So I'm going to fill the remainder of this pot up with a very gritty, well-draining mix. And then I am going to set this little tree up on drip. So I've got the drip pipe, and then I'm just going to attach one of those brown 1/4-inch pipes and just run it around the base of the tree. And then that way I can run drip to the tree every day, and the succulents, they'll only get rainwater. So I've trimmed the little whipcord. I prefer the shape to look that way. And I'm not sure if you're supposed to trim these or not, but this is how I want it to look. So I was going to chop it regardless. And now I'm going to select all my succulents and then pot them in the base. So I'm trying to decide what to do with the burro's tail that I propagated over winter. So I've just popped them out of their cups. And then I thought initially to just plant them around the edge. It's what I did with the donkey's tail last year. And then fill the center in with succulents. And then now I've decided I'm going to separate them all. So I've done the 1 cup where I've just removed the root balls, snipped it off, and then just taken some of the needles off. And then I was thinking to just stick them all along the base so that this becomes one big burro's tail container. Because I have another burro's tail, let me just lift it up here. I've had this one growing inside and it's gone all over the place. It's a different color because of the different lighting. This one's definitely more blue, and it was so dehydrated. You can see the little ends are greening up again. So what I could do is just cut this into pieces and just fill this whole pot up with burro's tail. I think it'll look nice. About 2 weeks. Let me pull one of these out to show you. They look a bit sad because we've had so much rain. You can see all the little roots starting up along the stem. So in about 2 months' time, these will be really beautiful. So So I brought my basement succulents up about 2 weeks ago, so they are fully hardened off. And then about 3 days ago, I popped them into this container and I noticed some of them have mealybugs. It's so difficult to get rid of mealybugs on succulents because there's so many nooks and crannies for them to hide. You can see this one had mealybug. And then the Pearl van Nurnbergs had mealybugs all the way up the stems. Look at that. Oh, it gives me the creeps, absolute creeps. Luckily they haven't destroyed the rosette yet. I'm gonna squash those buggers. So usually you would see one of the cotton egg sacs like this one, and you would just take some isopropyl alcohol and swab it with a Q-tip. But it's when you miss one. Let me just show you what is inside the egg sac. I'm carefully gonna grab the fluff and try and pull it apart a bit. There we go. Wait a bit more. Like that. So look how many nymphs are in one of those egg sacs. Now, if it hatches and these little nymphs crawl around, there's no way you'll see them. They are so tiny and there's so many of them. Like if I focus on one of them, let me just move my camera stand. There we go. Let's see. So there's one there. If I zoom out, I don't know if that's going to work. You can see how big my tweezer store is. It's not visible to the human eye. Mealies. So I did end up chopping away the root ball of all the ones with the mealies, and I did soak them in some 7. I'm just trying something different to the isopropyl. I'm just doing some experimenting. Next, I'm going to put some gravel around the succulents, and that's just going to help avoid the soil from splashing up on the succulents when it rains. We've actually had 3 days of rain, so these succulents are not happy. I need to get the gravel down and then cover this with plastic. So the gravel I'm using is aquarium gravel. I just picked this up at PetSmart, and this is a 5-pound bag, and I paid around about $8 for it. So I think this will go a long way. It's been raining like just on and off for days now, and the soil of my succulents is really drenched. So I've decided I'm just going to cover them until the sun comes out consistently. So I've got these large see-through garbage bags, and I've cut this bottom end open. Yeah. So that's quick and easy. And then I still have to pot up these succulents, but I'll do those on a different day.